And we are live. What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of the Off the Ball podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron, and we're back for another week of mock draft 2.0. And I got another great set of guys, some of the best, NBA draft experts out here. So let's get right into it. This mock draft is brought to you by MyBookie. Get up to $1,000 on sign-up bonus using promo code OFFTHEBALL. So let's get right into let's before we start it up, let's go around the horn, introduce each other. So let's start with you, Corey. Tell the people about yourself.
What's happening, man? Appreciate you having me back. It's been a minute. My name's Corey Tulliba. I cover the NBA draft. I have a YouTube channel and a podcast doing all things draft and from New York. So I'm ready to handle the New York selection of the draft. And yeah, that's it.
Yes. And we got a first timer here. Your first time on the pod. My guy, Nima. What's going on, brother?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. I'm Nima. You guys can find me on Twitter at FindingNima23. I host the Gen Z Rockets podcast. I'm also a part of Apollo Houston. I'm excited to do this. This is gonna be a lot of fun. I have the Rockets pick, so
I did it on purpose. Purpose.
We'll see if I get torn up a little bit.
We appreciate you being on here for the first time, man. We're gonna have some fun here. All right, Noah, what's going on, my man?
My name's Noah. I am a freelance basketball YouTuber. I somewhat cover the draft. I would say more than most like non-draft focus-based YouTubers. But my main focus is making what I like to call basketball film essays, taking elements from film essay style videos and applying them to basketball. It's mostly what I do, but I'm excited because I think I have probably the easiest pick in the draft, which is that third pick. So with Cleveland, and I'm just excited about that and a couple other fun picks as well.
Yes. Happy to have you. Lee, what's going on, brother?
Chris, thanks for having me back. And this is a solid crew right here. So it's good to see all you guys that I've probably interacted on Twitter and whatnot with. And yeah, I'm at Witch Carolina on Twitter. We do a podcast. We're pretty simple, straight down the middle. Hornets and NBA draft is pretty much the meat of what we talk about. I'm glad to be back. And this is a fun draft, and it's fun to do just like, a little first round mock with some guys and banter. Let's do it.
Yes, man. Happy to have you. Keandre, what's going on, brother?
What's going on? Happy to be back on the show. So I'm Keandre. Got a YouTube channel called Hoop Intellect. Mainly focuses on a draft and everything like that. Scouting reports and things of that nature. But yeah, I'm just excited to make these picks. I like it better when there's other people involved, so you don't have to like actually do all the picks yourself and try to figure all those things out. But yeah,
every time I watch your videos, I'm like, how does he do it? Corey, I don't know how you guys do it, where you just do a whole draft by. That's hard. I could imagine the editing and all that is definitely tough, But I'm excited to have you guys on here. So let's get into it. Let's get into the draft. And we have the Detroit Pistons are on the clock. I say we know who has the first pick again.
I've got it.
Lee, you are on the clock. Tough pick.
All right. Well, I'll make this pretty short and sweet. I mean, I'm gonna draft Cade Cunningham here. The one thing I will say, like I put out one board like the night before the draft. I kind of just wait till the very end, and I've been pretty consistent about the fact that like I think there's 4 players in the top tier of this draft, and I'm sure they're going to get taken pretty quickly. I haven't exactly settled on an order yet, but I'm imagining that Cade Cunningham honestly is going to end up being number 1 on my board, and I think he makes sense in Detroit. He's the most valuable archetype profile right now, value-wise in the NBA. These are the type of players that if they pan out, they win championships because they're heliocentric offensive engines that can score from anywhere on the court and spray the ball all over the floor as well. So Cade Cunningham in Detroit. Let's do it.
I like the fact that you said heliocentric, so that made it even more.
It's a buzzword, right? It's a buzzword.
That's a nice word. You might, if this was around the horn, I would give you some points for the heliocentric word. But yeah, Cade Cunningham going number 1 to the Detroit Pistons. All right, All right, Nima. Houston's on the clock.
Yeah.
Make you guys proud.
Look, I know there's one guy that a lot of people want, and that a lot of people think should go second. I think of the situation that Houston's in right now, we're going to be pretty bad for the next couple years for sure. I want to have fun. I want to have a lot of fun. I'm going to go with Jalen Green. I think the backcourt pairing of him and Kevin Porter Jr. playing off of each other, it's an incredibly high potential, first of all, but second of all, it's two very polarizing players in terms of how they play. They're very, very fun players. And that's not saying Evan Mobley isn't, but it's, it's a play style, and, I hate to be the guy that's going to toot a shooting guard and say, you gotta go for that kind of guy. But I think that you can't, number 2 and number 3 are both very, very high potential players. You can't go wrong with either one you pick. So I'm going to go with the guy that I think I have the most fun watching. And I'm also a champion of the G League. So I want the G League to succeed. And I think Jalen Green succeeding is the best way to do that. I think Houston's a good place for him to be.
Jalen Green and Kevin Porter together. That's fun. I mean, you might not win a lot of games, but that's fun to watch at least, But
not at first, but
at first.
But we got our pick next year, so we just gotta keep going for that.
Hey, just keep building, right? You got to start somewhere. But Jalen Green going to the Houston Rockets. All right, Noah, Cleveland Cavaliers are on the clock.
Well, I think this is probably the easiest pick. You take Evan Mobley. I would have considered Mobley too. I'm fine with Green going too, but Mobley, it just makes the most sense out of all of them. Obviously, with the Colin Sexton news, you don't know what's going to happen with him. But not only is Evan Mobley the best available player, by far in the board, it's also he's probably the best fit with what they need. He's somebody that every time I just watch him play, you can't believe that he's 7 feet tall and he's moving like this and he's defending like this and he's as smart as he is on both ends of the floor. I think some people kind of are underselling just how special of a talent he can be. It's very rare to find prospects. You could take a whole side of their game and you remove his offense, he's an elite defensive prospect. You remove his defense, he's an elite offensive prospect. Those kind of prospects I just think are very rare.
Yeah, can't go wrong with that. So Evan Mobley going to the Cleveland Cavaliers. All right, Toronto Raptors are on the clock, Corey.
I think maybe now I have the easiest pick after the top 3. I'm going to take Jalen Suggs. I think Suggs is tailor-made for the Raptors organization. There's a lot up in the air with Lowry, so he could slide right in. He's going to be an awesome pairing with Fred VanVleet. I think they complement each other really well as both scorers and playmakers. And I think that he's the kind of guy that I think he's going to have kind of like a Chauncey Billups-esque impact on whatever team he goes to. He might not be the guy that puts up the flashiest box score numbers, but I think when you look back on his career and the amount of winning that ultimately he does, I think it's going to be not shocking to anybody who paid attention because kid's a winner. I mean, everyone will remember that, game-winning shot, but it's the plays right before that shot that really kind of sell the prospect that he is to me, the block and then that bounce pass. So he's a phenomenal player and easiest pick of the draft at number 4 for the Raptors here.
Yes. So all right, Jalen Suggs going to the Toronto Raptors with the 4th pick. All right, Keandre, Orlando's on the clock.
Yeah, so I feel like this is now where things can get a little bit weird. I'm glad you put me in this position. So there's been a lot of talk around Jonathan Kuminga, Scottie Barnes. Those are kind of the most popular picks in this situation. But if I had the 8th pick, maybe I go somewhere different, with this just kind of how this draft is aligned. But I'm going to go with Moses Moody at number 5. I just think a guy with his sort of baseline skill set as a 3-and-D type of guy, super long arms. He's got more creation upside than I think he's given credit. Just things like that. I think he really fits this Orlando team and the guys that they want to, grow in the organization right now. And then, he fits it well into that going into the future. So that's who I got at number 5.
Nice. I like Moses Moody a lot. So, all right, Moses Moody going to the Orlando Magic. All right, Lee, Oklahoma City.
Well, yeah, Keandre's right. Like, this is where things can get wacky, and I respect it. I think, I mean, I don't think. Let's put it this way: I don't think Keandre is the only person that might take Moses Moody in the top 5, and I like that pick a lot. So I'm going to continue with a potentially a little bit off the beaten path, but frankly, not really as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to take Scottie Barnes from Florida State at 6 for the Oklahoma City Thunder. There are a couple different players you should consider in this spot probably. Scottie Barnes for me is just far more advanced and as some of the other options as an on the ball fender, as a team defender, as a defensive instinctual wing that just kind of play makes out there on the defensive floor. Obviously, he's pretty versatile and switchable. And then on the offensive side, look, he's way better in transition in the open floor right now than he is in the half court game. He's going to have to improve at like actual, ISO creation and getting by guys so he can actually dole out like that passing vision that you see that's so unique and rare for his size as well. So there are challenges here. Obviously, the shooting is going to probably have to improve on net as well. But I'm willing to bet on like the IQ, the defensive playmaking, the physical profile to go along with this kind of interesting and fun young core they're building in Oklahoma City. I think it works.
Yeah, he's definitely got a lot of skill, especially as a playmaker and all that. And that would be fun to see him in OKC with SGA. All right, Golden State on the clock. They get the pick from Minnesota. Minnesota's probably like, damn, why we win those games at the end of the season? But Golden State has the pick. So who you taking? Who you taking, Nemo?
Yeah, I mean, I think now my job's really easy. I'm taking Jonathan Kuminga. Again, G League, so maybe there's a little bit of bias, but I honestly think he's the 5th best player in this draft. I think he has, amazing potential. At one point, he was the best player in this class. I love the idea of him playing next to Steph and playing next to Clay. He'll have that spacing on that team to be able to operate a little bit better than he was able to in the G League. Those are 2 really good players to just learn from, as well as Draymond Green. The defensive ability that he has, even if they have Andrew Wiggins there, like that's also a good player for him to be able to, kind of pick up some things from. Andrew Wiggins is a very good defender, better than what he's been given credit. And then also, on a team like Golden State, he's not going to have to be a, playmaker. They have those playmakers. He's not going to be put into sort of awkward positions. He's going to be able to, kind of progress on his own accord. And I think that being a wing, especially in the Golden State system, like you're given an ability to really progress and really be able to grow your game. And I think that's a can't miss opportunity for Golden State, especially as you transition away from, the current generation that they have, banking on a high potential guy like Jonathan Kuminga. I think that's your best bet. And then you can, if you need a guy that can help you today, you can just pick that guy at 14 instead.
Yep. All right. So Jonathan Kuminga, Golden State. All right. Orlando, they get this pick from Chicago and the Vucevic trade. So they got their second first round pick. Orlando is on the clock.
So Noah. So I thought about this when you sent this out, like the list, and both 2 targets I had, one was Moses Moody, and with Moses Moody, obviously in Orlando, the guy that I said if Moses Moody goes 5, I'm taking Josh Giddey at 8. So I'm going to take Josh Giddey. He's one of my favorite prospects just to watch in this draft from like a pure tape study, just because he's such a creative passer. You still don't expect a guy this young to just be this smart. I do think he has concerns as a shooter, as an overall scorer. He's not the most athletic, but like Nima said with the Rockets, I'm just trying to have fun, and there's not as many fun prospects in this draft as Josh Giddey. And I know that there are other guards on Orlando right now, but really I just don't know the direction they're going in right now. So I just think taking a guy that's really high on my board, probably best available player at this point in the draft, just makes the most sense for me.
Yeah, I like Josh Giddey a lot. So that'll come away with Moses Moody and Josh Giddey. That would be a good get for Orlando for sure. All right, so Josh Giddey going to your Orlando Magic. Sacramento is on the clock, Corey.
All right. With the 9th pick in the 2021 NBA draft, the Sacramento Kings are going to take the 18-year-old MVP from Turkey, Alperen Şengün. They are going to add one of my favorite players in the draft, one of, I think, the smartest offensive players in the draft, to smart offensive players like Tyrese Halliburton and De'Aaron Fox. A guy who's going to be able to play either slow in the half court with these guys or get up and down a little bit. I think he's going to be a little bit better on the defensive end than he's being credited for. His production at his age in a professional league is ridiculously stupid. And I think that Şengün is kind of like the polar opposite of a guy like Marvin Bagley, who is just this kind of athletic guy who isn't going to think the game all that well when, you know, the rest of the NBA is kind of trending
That
toward
hurts.
these skill. Yeah,
That hurts that you said that, Corey. That hurts
I'm
much.
not giving up on Bagley, although I am giving up on him in Sacramento. I think he's a decent reclamation project. I just think Şengün is an absolute animal. I think putting him in pick and roll with either of those two guards and the passing that he has to, you know, be able to space the floor for Buddy Hield and Halliburton and Harrison Barnes. I mean, he's an unbelievable fit, I think, in Sacramento.
Yes, I definitely like him a lot too. So Alperen Şengün going to Sacramento. All right, New Orleans is on the clock. On Keandre.
Yeah, so the Pelicans are in a pretty weird situation here. A lot of the guys who are, you know, available right here, they don't really fit this New Orleans team that great. And they don't really have like the space or time to like really develop and pour into a lot of the guys that are in this sort of range. So, and I'd be really searching to sort of trade back and maybe get a little bit better value out of this pick. But I'm just gonna go with the guy who I think, you know, fits their team really well, and that's Corey Kispert from Gonzaga. I think, you know, you look at how this team has been constructed, has really held back your, you know, all-star guys like Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram, and even Lonzo Ball to a certain extent. Having Eric Bledsoe and Steven Adams in there has clogged a lot of things. You just watch 2 Pelicans games, you get it right away. But I think Corey Kispert's shooting ability, the more well-roundedness of his game, he does a lot of the little things well. He's got good size, a better athlete than advertised, and it shows up on tape a little bit better than maybe he measured out. I like him. I like him in as a complimentary guy in New Orleans.
Yeah, Corey Kispert definitely helps with the shoot. I mean, there's a lot of pressure for New Orleans. They gotta, you know, they're on that Zion watch already, you know, and he just, you know, played a little over a year in his career. So Corey Kispert going to New Orleans with the 10th pick. All right, Lee, you got Charlotte on the clock. Your Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's any secret. Like, the Hornets need 2 things mainly, I think, from a roster construction standpoint. Like, they need the rim protection archetype, and they need point of attack defense. It's going to be an interesting offseason. Graham and Monk, along with Zeller, are all free agents. So who's going to be retained is kind of still up in the air. And it's possible the 11th pick will kind of inform us on potential future plans in the offseason after the draft and in free agency. And I think most people think Charlotte's going to swing at front court talent. At 11, I don't think it's out of the question at all for them to go guard or wing because of those circumstances I talked about earlier. I'm going to go with Kai Jones here. I think Kai Jones is one of the most – obviously, he's one of the most highest ceilings in the draft with the flashes he shows at Texas as a sophomore. They are still flashes at this point. He shot 38% from 3 in his sophomore year, but it was on really low volume. So you have to kind of figure out how you project him as a floor spacer early in his career. I'm not concerned like over the long term. I think Kai Jones will shoot it, but early in his career, he's going to have to be, you know, you have to be patient as an organization. But I think it's a nice, like, treading the line of drafting upside that if he's better than expected early, he really helps your organization in a meaningful way because we don't have his profile on this roster right now. And if he's more of a developmental project, like a Malik Monk type, who's really, or even Miles Bridges, who's exploded in the third year of his career, that's okay too with our timeline. Like everything gravitates around LaMelo now. He's a fantastic pick and roll partner for LaMelo in the future. And I'd be thrilled. I don't think he's going to be there, but I'd be thrilled if he was.
Yeah, and did you see him yesterday at the the Clutch Sports? Woo! He's impressive. He's definitely an impressive impressive player. So all right, Kai Jones, Texas, going to Charlotte. All right, Nima, San Antonio Spurs.
San Antonio is an interesting one. I would say go for Şengün and Kai Jones, but both of them are already taken off the board. And then they are kind of flat in the 4, and there's all the rumors with DeJounte Murray now, and I think they are betting on Lonnie Walker, but do you in the way this has kind of panned out, like maybe you bet on one of the shooting guards that are still at that higher tier of the draft, but I'm gonna go with the international, and I'm gonna go with Usman Garuba. I'm going to take him. I'm going to have him fill the 4 spot over in San Antonio. And I just think that he allows for – sorry, there's fireworks happening outside. New York City.
We know that. New York City, it's great. It's still fireworks.
They're preparing for the Knicks picks that are upcoming.
Ooh,
yeah, sure.
Yep, you're right, Lee. You're right. You're absolutely right.
But I just like the upside there. I love his game. I think the 3-pointer that was coming along, I think it's gonna come along in the NBA. I think that his offensive ability will end up getting a lot better. And the defensive ability, he's already extremely smart. I do think that he might play a little too physical for the NBA game, but a coach like Pop is probably the perfect coach to really kind of hone those skills and make him a little bit more a little smarter whenever it comes to being able to guard in the NBA. But I just think that that's a solid fit there. And I think of the guys left on the board, if you want to get highest potential out of a guy like Lonnie Walker and maybe even DeJounte Murray, if he is to stay around, I think Usman Garuba is probably the best guy to pit, left on there to really help those guys as well.
Yes, I like him a lot too. So Usman Garuba going to the San Antonio Spurs. All right, we got the Indiana Pacers on the clock, Noah.
So when I looked at Indiana, I kind of look at them and they have a chance to be good, but not great. And that's kind of like the worst spot you can be in the NBA, in my opinion. It's kind of stuck in that mediocrity where you're not bad enough to necessarily get a high pick, but you're not good enough necessarily to compete. I really think when you're in that position, you take best player available. And the best player available on my board is Sharif Cooper from Auburn. I think I'm probably way higher on him than most people are. I think that he just has things about his game that you can't teach as far as his passing ability goes. His ability to throw with both hands, the accuracy, the vision, all of that is just things that you can't teach. Based off the workouts I've seen, he has worked on his form, which shows me that he understands the problems with his shooting ability. So I think there's a chance that improves. And with the free throw shooting that he showed at Auburn and the free throw attempt rate that he showed, I think that's a good indicator that he has good potential to grow into a good shooter. And he's somebody, I kind of overthought him for most of the process. And then I realized talent's talent at the end of the day. And, I think that I would take him higher personally, but if he's available anywhere at between 13 and the range he's projected to go into, I think he's going to be a steal. So I have him going to Indiana.
Okay, so Sharif Cooper out of Auburn going to the Indiana Pacers. All right, Corey, Golden State Warriors with their second first-round pick on the clock.
All right, with the 14th pick in the 2021 NBA draft, I am taking somebody. I'm probably the only person on draft Twitter at this point who has this guy top 10. With the 7th pick, the Warriors took a little bit of a upside swing with Jonathan Kuminga. And at 14, I am going to take national champion Davion Mitchell. Davion Mitchell, I think, is somebody who is potentially going to be a souped up Marcus Smart. I think that when you talk about close to elite athleticism. Most people wouldn't put Davion there because he's not a above the rim guy. But when you look at his first step, his stop, start, speed, his ability to just go side to side, I think that he's up there. I think that as far as perimeter defenders in the draft, he is easily, I think, the best. I think that he's going to be able to check guys taller than him. I think it's hilarious that he's the only prospect in the entire draft that has been talked about with his in socks measurements instead of his in shoes measurements to make him seem shorter. And I think just as a two-way player for a team like Golden State, who is still trying to win championships, he's a guy that's going to be able to come in, play with the first unit, spark the second unit, and not kill you defensively. And I think he'll be an instant impact guy as a rookie for a veteran team like the Golden State Warriors. Playing with smart players like that, I think would be a tremendous get for the Warriors. And if they can get him at 14 instead of 7, all the better. So with the 14th pick, Davion Mitchell to the Warriors.
Yeah, I was just watching the Ringer. They did their draft, their first round. They literally, Corey, just said the same exact thing about Davion and to Golden State. That same exact thing. So that makes a lot of sense for the Golden State Warriors to take Davion there if he's there at 14. So all right, Davion Mitchell, Baylor national champion, going to the Golden State Warriors. All right, so that concludes the lottery. We are going to 15th pick, the Washington Wizards. Keandre.
Yeah, so Wizards are another one of those teams that are in like a really weird spot. Who knows what they're going to do in the future with, Westbrook and Beal and their contracts and, trades and all that kind of stuff. I think they go with, a big time talent, had a weird year at Duke, and Jalen Johnson. I feel like he does fit this team, fairly well as is, but, going forward, he's somebody who he has a lot of upside as he works on his outside shot, his half court offense, just being more comfortable in the half court, his athleticism, more fluidity, things like that. He has a really good chance to be a really high impact type of player. And, I think that's the pick for the Wizards at 15.
All right. So Jalen Johnson out of Duke going to the Washington Wizards. All right. Oklahoma City is up, Lee.
All right. Yeah, it's fun when you get to make both picks for a team because you kind of feel like you're roster building a little bit. And OKC's like just this like wide open picture to paint. I mean, they've got look, they've got some really good young guard talent. Like I'm super bullish on Theo Maledon. I thought he was a first rounder in last cycle. Obviously SGA is like chronically underrated as a young guard in this league. And Lou Dort kind of brings his own flavor of like young, important talent too. So I'm just going to kind of keep adding to the chest here. I mean, took Scottie Barnes, like obviously a distributive offensive connector and like defensive guy. So I'm going to kind of swing like the complete opposite way and take Cam Thomas from LSU here at 16. He's not a player that's going to really need to take a ton of usage away from SGA or Maledon's like development as a playmaker, or obviously even Kemba's there now too. Look, Cam Thomas can put it on the floor. He's a creative offensive scorer, but he's also probably one of the most adept like off-ball screen readers for getting himself free for open jump shots as well. You would have liked to see his three-point percentage be a little higher this year at LSU. Don't get me wrong. He was like 33% from the three, but it was on massive, massive volume. He shot over 200 threes on the year. So I just like buy him as a long-term, like real impressive movement shooter and scorer that doesn't necessarily need a ton of reps on the ball. He also had one of the highest free throw rates in this class as a freshman. He shot over 200 free throws on the season as well at 88%. So he's a shooter. He wasn't as efficient as he needed to be at LSU. That may continue early in his career in the NBA, but Oklahoma City's got time and they've got playmakers around him. So I think he's a borderline lottery talent. I'm glad to get him here at 16.
Yeah, and he's a bucket getter. You need a bucket, that's what he does. He shot that thing in LSU. He definitely wasn't afraid to shoot at LSU. So, so Oklahoma City taking Cam Thomas out of LSU. All right. Memphis Grizzlies are on the clock, Nemo.
Yeah, I'm gonna go local with the Grizzlies. I'm gonna get the Tennessee Mr. Basketball, Keon Johnson. Look, he's one of the quickest guys in the draft. He's someone who can run the floor with Ja Morant, run the fast break with Ja Morant. I think that's very exciting for a team like that. And also, they're kind of just not really. I feel like they have really good guards. They have Desmond Bane, DeAnthony Melton, but I do think they see Dylan Brooks more as a 3, and so being able to have that kind of all-around guard who can go and lock down on defense, but also give you buckets on the other end is something that is, a really good addition next to another wing like Dylan Brooks, and next to a guy like Ja Morant. I think that is very exciting pairing. I think that's someone that the Grizzlies fans will gladly get behind and gladly champion. I think it's a very good fit, and it would allow Memphis to really kind of bank on potential. I think Keon Johnson, I'm pretty high on him. I think that he's a very good player in this draft. I think he is probably one of the better shooting guards. I have him 3rd overall out of the shooting guards, or 4th. But I think that's a very good fit, and I keep him home.
Yep. All right, so Keon Johnson going to the Memphis Grizzlies. All right, Oklahoma City is on the clock. They have their third. This is their 3rd first-round pick of the night. So Noah, who you got?
I was originally going to go with Jaden Springer until Cam Thomas went to OKC. So I would think that's probably too many goats now. So I'm going to go with Zaire Williams, somebody that I still think is through the upper echelon in this draft, personally speaking. I think that there were off-the-court things, obviously not related to character, but like stuff that went on that can affect a young player, from like injuries to like family situations. And it's hard to get your rhythm when you're dealing with these things. And I think that had he been in a situation where he was able to get his rhythm, and obviously not only that, but like what went on around the world with Stanford and the situation they were in as a team, I think he probably is a bit better. I understand there are concerns, like the advanced stats aren't good. There are things about his tape that look kind of glaring, but I also think that there's immense talent with him as well as a shot creator at that size. And I think that you get him in OKC, you get him, with what I think is a very good developmental staff, and you work on his weight, get him stronger. And I think that this is another pick that may look like a steal in a few years.
Okay, yeah, Zaire Williams going to the Oklahoma City Thunder. All right, here it is. Corey, the New York Knicks are on the clock. Let's get the boos ready. Let's get the boos. They're already booing, Corey.
Nope.
Change their mind.
turn that frown upside down. We're keeping it in the Big East. We are talking about the New York kid who sounds like Pop Smoke. I'm taking James Bouknight out of UConn for the New York Knicks. Bouknight.
Nope, let's change it. Let's change the boos to cheers now. I think you're gonna get cheers for this. You're gonna have to get cheers for that.
I did not think that Bouknight was going to fall this far down the draft, especially given all of the hype that he's gotten recently with his combine and workouts and whatnot.
Great workout.
I think that, look, if you look at what one of the things that hurt the Knicks in the playoffs is they were struggling to get buckets in tough situations. And I look at Bouknight, and this is a guy that is going to help a team get buckets, much like Cam Thomas, who I also am very high on. He is going to light the garden on fire with his athleticism. Look, I went to one of the games where there were only 2,000 fans or whatever in the arena, and that place was rocking. When this kid throws down a putback or something, that place is going to be on fire. If him and Quickly get it going at the same time, it's going to be just a tremendous feeling in New York. I love his talent. I love his potential on both sides of the ball. I believe he's a much better shooter than the 29% from three indicated. So I think he is an absolute steal, theft, whatever robbery at 19 for the Knicks.
Oh yeah, this is highway robbery. If he's here. So I would be happy, very happy. I think most Knicks fans will be. You can't make Knicks fans happy that much, But I think if Book Knight is here at 19, they'll be ecstatic about this. So good. I think, very good pick. All right. So the Knicks take Book Knight at the pick. All right. So the 20th pick, we got the Atlanta Hawks, Keandre.
Yeah, so there's a couple players I have ranked higher, still left on this board, but I think the fit is really good for this Hawks team. I don't know if any of these rookies will really help them, take the next step as a team, but Jaden Springer out of Tennessee really helps this Hawks team get another playmaker in there, somebody who can guard multiple positions. He's a really good athlete. I think he'll, show that right away in the league. You like his size and everything like that. So I think next to Trae Young, throw him in that guard mix, take a little bit of the pressure off of, a guy like Kevin Huerter. Doesn't need to be your sole, secondary playmaker for others. And then you got a guy like Lou Williams if they keep him around. I think it works really well, and definitely one of the younger players in the draft could, turn into a long-term piece for this Hawks team. Or, maybe he's involved in a package to go get, one of those top tier guys in the future and take them to the next step, be a contender in the East.
Yes. So we got Jaden Springer going to the Atlanta Hawks. All right, Knicks are back on the clock. They got this pick from the Dallas Mavericks in the Porzingis trade. So the Knicks are on the clock. Lee, who they taking?
Well, I mean, Corey did his job. I had Book Night written in ink, hoping, just praying that he would make it easy for me. But I thought that was a phenomenal pick. This is an interesting spot because obviously the Knicks do have some offseason questions, particularly in the backcourt about bringing back veteran backcourt talent. But you add James Bouknight, and that gives you a really impressive and potentially immediate impact rotational guard on your roster. So there's some insurance there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take JT Thor from Auburn. JT Thor is in some circles a lottery talent. In some circles, he's a high upside, early second round guy. I think he's a really volatile prospect from kind of an opinion standpoint. But what he does do is he offers a late first round developmental project that would give New York some versatility in the front court that they don't particularly have at the moment. Mitchell Robinson and JT Thor's success stories, I think, can be complementary actually because of the way Mitchell is more of a kind of rim protection anchor. Thor's best case scenario is stepping out and shooting it at a high efficient level, putting the ball on the floor and is in some ISO creation. He's obviously a rim protector as well. He averaged over a block and a half a game at Auburn this year. He's a defensive anticipator too. A lot of people think of him as a hybrid or a big prospect. I think he's got a little bit more wing functionality than he gets credit for if it all works out. So, look, this is certainly a gamble, but at the value we're at now and with a really nice, safe pick at 19 for a guard contributor, I think New York has the luxury now to take a swing at some developmental talent, and they've already done a good job with their rookies from last year.
All right, so we're going to get boos or we're going to get cheers? What do you guys think? Boos or cheers?
Booze.
I mean, the odds
you get booed. It's a boo. It's a boo.
I don't think it mattered who he picked. I think it would have been good.
After Book Night across the board, it was just good luck, buddy.
Yeah. Knowing the Knicks fans, how I know them, they see boos. I'm getting boos in the comment section. So yeah, but he's definitely an intriguing prospect. So I think there's some potential upside there. So won't be too mad at that. So JT Thor going to the New York Knicks. All right, we got the Los Angeles Lakers on the clock, Nima.
Yeah, the Lakers still have championship aspirations. We're gonna go with a champion. We're going to go with Jared Butler, a guy who's been there, done that. I do know that there's the health concerns, but I honestly think if the health concerns aren't there, he doesn't fall to 22. I think that this is, one of the more poised players, someone who can come in today and really help an NBA team. And that's sort of what the Lakers need because, they're kind of in a lock with the cap situation they're in. Do you bring back Dennis Schroeder? You don't really have the ability to upgrade and really make a trade. So you kind of need guys who can sort of help you today. Jared Butler is that guy. He can help you on both ends of the court. He can space the floor. And he's proved, at Baylor, he can show up in the big games. He can play in the big games. He's been there. So come playoff time, you don't have to worry about him, being a liability on that stage or, not underperforming or costing your team, because he's been there. He's done that. You can sort of trust in him, especially next to LeBron and Anthony Davis, to make the right play at the right time. So I think Jared Butler at 22 is the perfect fit for the Lakers.
Yes. So Jared Butler, national champion, going to the Lakers. Hopefully everything medical wise, comes out clean and he's good to go, because he's definitely a first round talent. All right, we got the Houston Rockets on the clock. They got this pick from the Portland Trailblazers. Noah, who's the pick?
Well, I'm kind of shocked that this guy's actually still on the board. I thought he would have gone a lot earlier, but I'm taking Franz Wagner here. Really a best available player kind of pick. Somebody that is projected to go a lot higher than this. I would say more than likely. It's kind of a do-it-all. Like, I think he's a safe prospect because you know what you're going to get. But I do think that there is upside because he is relatively young as well. Somebody that I think you can play right away, and he won't get in the way of like Jalen Green or Kevin Porter Jr. Somebody that, he can make an impact with some statistics, but he can make an impact without stats as well. And I think Houston could use a player like that to add to your young core, because really any team could use a player that can make an impact with and without stats.
Yeah. So Franz Wagner going to the Houston Rockets. All right, Houston back on the clock. They get this pick from the Milwaukee Bucks. Corey, what's the pick?
All right, so with the second pick, the Rockets took Green. With the 23rd pick, they took Franz Wagner. I'm going to follow the Atlanta Hawks model, Phoenix Suns model. I'm taking another wing to pair. I'm taking Trey Murphy III out of Virginia, a guy that I thought maybe should have gone a little bit earlier as well. He is an absolute sniper, 43% from three. He shot at Rice 37% last year on 7 attempts a game. Before that, he was over 40% a game. He shot 93% from the free throw line. Anytime you get a guy who's in either the high 80s or the 90s, you are a sniper. All right. You're not just a shooter. I think that defensively, he is going to be a versatile switch defender. I think Franz Wagner is going to be a versatile switch defender. And if we've learned anything, you can never have enough of these guys who are 6'8", 6'9", 7-foot wingspans who can do a bunch of things, defend a bunch of positions, and space the floor. I think Trey Murphy is going to be an elite role player in this league. And to me, a lot of times that's way more valuable than swinging for the upside picks. So I think that he's going to be one of the more valuable prospects in this draft and could potentially have like that Mikal Bridges kind of impact for whatever team that drafts him.
Yeah, Trey Murphy's definitely risen for me since that combine. I mean, the combine did him a lot, did him justice. He definitely took advantage of that, and his name has been rising. So we got Trey Murphy going to the Houston Rockets. All right, Keandre, Clippers are on the clock with the 25th pick.
Yeah, so with the 25th pick, the Clippers get who I think is a steal at this spot in Trey Mann. One of the best shot creators in the class, and with Kawhi Leonard going to be out for, probably all of next season, you need a little bit more juice on that team, and they really needed somebody kind of in that spot in the first place. You couldn't really expect Reggie Jackson to play like an all-star, even though he did. But yeah, I think this is a fairly easy pick for them to make. Another guy like Jared Butler went before him. He was one of my other targets. But yeah, just the type of talent that Trey Mann is, I think this is a home run pick for the Clippers, especially going, with their whole pick situation in the future. This is when they kind of need to hit.
Yeah, and at this point, Trey Mann dropping this far, they definitely got to jump on that if that's the case. So, all right, Trey Mann going to the Los Angeles Clippers. All right, the Denver Nuggets are on the clock, Lee.
All right, 26th pick in the draft. I believe this is my last pick, so I don't think I could let this stream go through without getting Miles McBride from West Virginia off the board. A player that I'm admittedly much higher on than the consensus. I think Miles McBride is a top 15 prospect in this draft. he can pretty much fit anywhere. I mean, Miles McBride is kind of that, I think, recently valuable, combo guard type that can run offense in a pinch in a second unit. He's an adept pick and roll operator. People don't think of him as this ultra quick. He's not Sharif Cooper in terms of like burst, but he's so functionally basketball athletic that he just wins ISO matchups. It may not look as bursty as some of these other guards, but we've kind of learned that these instinctual drivers and facilitators can really help teams. He's a better athlete than he gets credit for as well. He's obviously one of the best on-ball defenders in this draft class. That's kind of his calling card. He's a brick house on the ball. And we know point of attack defenders are super valuable in the NBA right now too. He spaces the floor well, and he can fit into this kind of Jamal Murray backcourt here in Denver.
Okay, so we got Miles McBride going to the Denver Nuggets. All right, we got the Brooklyn Nets on the clock. Nima, don't give them too good of a pick, so we don't want them to be too good.
Yeah, I mean, the Nets is a really weird situation, right? I mean, you kind of need a guy who can help you today, but at the same time, you're stacked in the backcourt, so you can't really get a point guard because, with Kyrie, with Harden, I don't see a guard really getting a lot of minutes. There's not very many, wings that I would really take at this point in the draft either. Maybe you take a guy like Josh Christopher, or you go for more of a big and take a guy like Isaiah Jackson. The Nets have 4 picks in this draft, another one not until the 44th. And so I'm going to go with a bit of a reach. Somebody that I really like, someone that, knowing Mike D'Antoni, and just how he likes to get really creative with his systems. This is someone that I think allows you to get extremely creative. And I'm gonna go with Mamu out of Seton Hall. I'm gonna reach for Mamu. 6'11", basically a guard, extremely mobile, can already a filled out body. I think that he could honestly be able to guard a lot of 4s in the league, potentially even some 5s. I think that playing next to guys like Kevin Durant, like James Harden and Kyrie Irving, there's a lot of potential for him to kind of be a big playmaker. And if Blake Griffin stays, that is probably one of the best guys for you to learn from in terms of being that big initiator. And so I think Mamu at 27 to the Nets is what I'm going to do. I like that pick a lot. I do think that, you may want to go with someone who you think can help you immediately, but I don't really see why Mamu wouldn't be that guy as well. So,
all right, I'm not even going to try to say his name, so we're going to go with Mamu. Mamu to Brooklyn with the 27th pick. All right, we got the Philadelphia 76ers on the clock, Noah.
So I think probably the one thing the Sixers need is a guard that can score, that can get a bucket for himself right now. And at this point, and this is somebody that is way higher on my board, I don't think there's anyone better at this range than Josh Christopher. It pains me to give someone like Josh Christopher, being a Celtics fan, to Philly, but it just makes too much sense at this point. He's probably my favorite prospect in this draft. I love his size. I love the confidence that he plays with. I think that he does the little things better than he gets credit for. And I think in Philly, it just makes too much sense because it was going to be either him, Cam Thomas, or Trey Mann, one of those 3 if they were available. And he was the only one that ended up being available. And then I think just getting a scoring guard like that, just, I think that there may be some better players available. But I think fit-wise, I think value-wise, this makes sense.
Yeah, you get great value here with him at this late in the draft. So that's a great pick. Josh Christopher going to the Philadelphia 76ers. All right. Phoenix Suns, maybe the potential world champions, are on the clock, Corey.
All right. So the Suns have a couple of, kind of holes in their potentially championship roster. Backup big is obviously an issue. And I think backup point guard, you're probably looking at somebody a little bit more consistent than Bulls legend campaign. With that said, I don't know if the draft is the area that you want to address either of those spots if you're going to be a championship team. It hurts me actually to pass on Isaiah Jackson because I actually do think he's a tremendous fit. I have him way higher on my board, but I think if you look at their roster, there's a kind of a need for somebody to be a backup 2 guard to Devin Booker as well, who could also be another kind of wing who could step in right away. I'm going to take Chris Duarte out of Oregon for the Suns. He's 24 years old, I think. So he's crazy old. He's a guy that could fit in and potentially contribute. The Suns aren't afraid to take older players, as evidenced by their past draft history. I think that what they did in the lottery last year was a potentially championship losing mistake, taking who they took. So I think that they need to get somebody who's actually going to help their team and their window, especially if they're going to take and keep Chris Paul going forward. And I think Duarte is a guy that's going to be able to knock down shots, defend a little bit, and maybe do a little bit more off the bounce, and kind of a limited off the bench role as just another one of these, wings that seem to be endless in Phoenix.
Okay. So Phoenix takes Chris Duarte from Oregon with the 29th pick. All right. The last pick in the first round, the Utah Jazz are on the clock, Keandre.
Yeah, so shout out to Corey for taking who I was gonna pick here. I kind of pinpointed him for those last 5. But I'm gonna go with the guy who is my best player available, and that is Bones Highland at this spot for the Utah Jazz. I think they're going to take another, swing at it in the Western Conference. Bones is a guy who, he's got great range, long arms, plays with a lot of fire, a lot of heart. And then, whatever they do with Mike Conley, they definitely need somebody who can, give them an extra punch scoring wise. Don't put all that type of, shouldering the load on Donovan Mitchell. And then, they're playing like Miaoni, a lot of minutes. So I think Bones Highland gives you a different look, and I like him here at 30 for the Jazz.
All right. So that concludes the first round of the draft. So I got a few more questions for you guys before I let you guys go off. And I appreciate everyone who's tuning in and for everyone, a part of this mock draft. All right. So obviously we just concluded the first round. So let's go around the horn. I want to get your guys' thoughts on some surprises, whether, you're surprised at the person that got picked in the first round, and surprises for who didn't get drafted. So let's go around. Corey, you go first.
So for surprise, who did get drafted in the first round?
Yeah.
I'm going to, I guess, break some hearts here. I don't think Zaire Williams is a first round prospect.
Yes. You said on your pod. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I went real in depth on why. I think he's, I don't know. I think he's not a good NBA basketball player. I don't think he, watching high school, AAU, FIBA, I just never thought that he showed these skills that other people did. I don't think he can create his own shot. When he does create his own shot, I don't think it goes in. I think his handle's weak. It's sloppy. I don't think he's got a good body despite him being 6'10". He's got these narrow shoulders. I don't think his frame is going to hold up. I do like him defensively. I think that he'll be able to guard a little bit. Maybe if he aims to be the best role player ever, he can carve a niche out, but that's not a guy I'm taking a chance on in the first round, despite, whatever hardships he went through this year, which are legitimate. But I thought he was borderline from Jump Street. Who I'm surprised didn't get drafted, Isaiah Jackson. He's a guy I have a lot higher. I think that when I look at the Kai Jones versus Ijax, I'm on team Ijax. So I think that he could help a lot of teams. I thought that he was the lone bright spot for Kentucky this year, pretty much. And, while I don't think he's going to turn into the Karl Anthony Towns level shooter. I think that he has elements of his game that he can get to show off. And I think he's going to be a pro that if you pair him with the right pick and roll partner, I think he's going to be a tremendous player in that scenario.
Okay. What about you, Nemo?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there was anybody I was surprised that got drafted in the first round. Maybe my own pick with Mamu, but I would say, I was surprised James Bouknight slipped to 19. That's somebody who, in my opinion, is in the second tier of players. I have him currently at 8th on my board. And the only reason why I took Keon Johnson over him was that Tennessee connection. And I think that, he might be a little bit better of a fit and just a little bit better of a, ability to kind of grow his game in Memphis. But him going down to 19, that's a steal for the Knicks. That's an absolute steal for the Knicks. And then guys that, I thought maybe should have been picked. I would also say probably Isaiah Jackson. I think Isaiah Jackson is a good fit. And that's someone else who I was really thinking about going with at 27 for the Nets. But I just really wanted to pick Mamu there. I think that's a great idea just for D'Antoni and Steve Nash to get very creative with a guy like that.
Yes. What about you, Noah?
I don't think I was surprised by anyone that got picked. I definitely think mine is probably Mamu, but that's just more. I just haven't watched him a lot. But I don't think anything like surprised me. I think maybe Sengun would a bit higher than I would have taken him. He's more in that mid first round, late lottery range. I didn't think top 10. I think the thing that shocked me the most, and this is probably just for me personally, is Jaden Springer falling all the way to 20. Admittedly, I'm probably way higher on Jaden Springer than a lot of people. I get blinded a bit sometimes, I will admit, by younger prospects that produce. It happened with Kyra Lewis Jr. to an extent as well. And for me, if he's doing my philosophy is if Springer's doing this at 18 when he should probably still be in high school, what would he be doing if he was in high school right now, playing against worse competition? That's just kind of how I think. So I was a bit shocked that he fell to 20 because I would have taken him top 6 probably, but that's just me. I would probably agree with both Corey and Nima with Isaiah Jackson being that guy that fell out of the first round. Roko Perkin would be another guy. I have no idea how to pronounce his last name, but Roko, he would be another one, but definitely Isaiah Jackson. He was somebody that I think might have gone as high as 15.
Yeah, definitely surprising. All right, Plea.
Well, Noah just saved me from having to do a Jaden Springer rant. He laid that out really well on why I'm also incredibly high on Jaden Springer. I think he's a lottery talent in this draft. If I had to, that was the guy I was going to mention is surprised he fell. I think the other one I would mention would be Trey Mann, all the way down to 25th. I think the Clippers would be ecstatic to get him that late in the draft. But look, I mean, one of the overall points I was going to make here is this draft is really deep, particularly when you get kind of in the back half of this first round, early second. There's so much subjectivity between these late first round prospects. I mean, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Bones Highland, Day'Ron Sharpe are on a lot of first round boards. But that's the point I'm making though. There was really nice prospects picked in front of those guys. So when I'm doing my board personally, it's there are gonna be prospects I like that end up in the second round. That's just the nature of this cycle. In 2021. Completely agreed on Isaiah Jackson. I'm choosing between Kai Jones and Isaiah Jackson at 11 with Charlotte, and Corey kind of mentioned I hope that's the case, that they get to pick between those two guys. They're literally right beside each other on my board right now. So definitely echo that one. And then just another Raekwon Gray from Florida State, I think is a borderline first round prospect with his defensive versatility and playmaking, and somewhat out of the same mold, different players, but somewhat similar archetypes. Aaron Henry's a guy from Michigan State that I like a lot. And last note, fully support the Mamu first round hype.
Awesome. What about you, Keandre?
Yeah, I feel like everybody pretty much covered everything at this point. I don't really have too many areas I feel like I can go to, but yeah, definitely Isaiah Jackson. If he falls to the second round, that'll be a guy I think a lot of teams would just be throwing a lot of stuff out to go immediately trade up for at 31 with Milwaukee. But yeah, guys like Roko, Jeremiah Robinson Earl is definitely in there. Those would be the main two that I would see, also in the first round. Josh Primo possibly. but yeah, that's pretty much, where I'm coming from. I already mentioned Jaden Springer, Trey Mann, those type of guys.
All right. So my last question for you guys. And we'll go to Keandre. We'll go reverse. Give me your sleeper that no one's talking about that you like a lot.
Sleeper. Are we talking the entire draft or just like
deep
first
sleeper?
roundish?
Yeah. Give
Okay.
me a deep sleeper.
Deep sleeper. We'll just go with one of my favorites in this class, and we'll go with Jason Preston. Somebody who's electric with the ball. One of the best playmakers in the draft. With a lot of high end playmakers. He's been sort of a late bloomer. Coming off the bench in high school. This weird winding path. To Ohio and then all the way to the NBA draft. It's just been a pretty interesting story. One of the best in the draft. But yeah, just looking at him as a player, bigger guard, somebody who can make a lot of plays. I think that he's, definitely a top 40 type of guy. He's gotten a little bit more buzz lately, I've seen. And obviously it's led to him staying in the draft, but he's a guy who I really like.
Yeah, had a solid combine too, which helped a lot. Lee?
Yeah. So I'll throw out a name that's, I guess, pretty a deep sleeper. I think he's getting a little bit more buzz after some decent combine performances. But Dwayne Washington Jr. out of Ohio State is a guard that I really like in this cycle. He again is kind of another one of these massive volume 3-point shooters, and he shot in the high 30s from three on the year at Ohio State. Also, just like so he's a huge, like, massive volume movement off the dribble shooter, which we know has a decent chance to succeed in the NBA. And then what I think people are missing on him a little bit is like he wins in isolation a lot more than he gets credit for too, and like that bears out with the numbers and the eye test. So like you watch him against Illinois, and he's able to get downhill against Dosunmu. And then there were some other matchups in his conference, and particularly in the tournament that he was able to create advantage. So I think movement guard shooter that can also, there's also a little underrated as an on the ball playmaker. For a deep sleeper, that's worth mentioning from my angle.
Okay, cool. What about you, Noah?
I definitely think he's like a known name, but he's definitely like fallen almost completely off some boards based off like peers and stuff that I know. But like Jason Nix has always been kind of one of my favorites in this class. I think that he is an interesting combination of a frame and like the passing skills. He was super high on my board to start the year. I think I had him as high as number 13 to start the year. He's fallen probably to like the late 30s, early 40s for me now. But I definitely think if a team gets him in the second round, I think he could develop into like an interesting sort of facilitator that's kind of like able to play some volleyball just because of his frame.
Yep. That's why I like him a lot. All right, Nima, what about you?
Yeah, I've got two guys. One, EJ Onu. I don't care that he played in the NAIA. Whenever you can shoot 40% from three at 7'1" and also average 5 blocks a game, you have my attention. He has a grown body already. He's someone who I think, you throw him in the G League for maybe a year and you'll be able to get him to really help you in your rotation the year after. He's someone who can space the floor as a big man. He can also guard the prim. He can guard the rim. He's pretty agile for his size, and he can also finish around the rim pretty well as well. I like him a lot. And then another guy, I went to Syracuse. He's the only Syracuse guy in this draft, and I think he should be on a lot more boards. Is Alan Griffin. He was an incredible defender at Syracuse this year. In the ACC, guarding a lot of the guys who are, getting drafted way ahead of him and doing an amazing job at it. I mean, he was really the anchor of Syracuse's defense this year. And I know, everyone likes to talk about the 2-3 zone, but at 6'5", he was, basically just blocking everything in the paint. Help defense, and even playing a little bit of as an on-ball defender, he was also very effective. And on top of that, he's a great shooter, high volume shooter as well. And I like his game a lot. I think if he's somebody who goes undrafted, whoever picks him up is gonna have a great time with that. So I think Alan Griffin is probably my sleeper for the pick.
Nice. Corey?
I'm going to go with one of the other G League Ignite guys. I think Isaiah Todd has kind of been slept on a little bit in this process. What I liked so much about the Ignite program is that you got to see these guys play in a pro system with pro coaching with and against professional players. And I think that Isaiah Todd actually showed a little bit more than maybe I'd expected him to. But what I like about him as a prospect is that even if he's not doing all of the turnaround, fadeaway, jump shot stuff from, the mid post, he's still a guy that is going to be a modern stretch big. I think he moves really, really well for his size. And I just love that he has a head start with NBA terminology, NBA systems. And I think that he's a guy that, I thought that he put up pretty good production for somebody who was, maybe looked at as one of the more raw G League guys. And I think that he's going to find himself a niche as a stretch role player in the NBA.
Well, I appreciate every single one of you guys for joining me today for this mock draft. So round of applause for everyone here. Round of applause. Like I said, I appreciate everyone who tuned in to this mock draft 2.0 show. You guys are great. This was a lot of fun. Nima, thanks for for hopping on for the first time on Off the Ball. Yeah. So before we sign off, let's everyone plug all your stuff because you guys do a lot of great stuff. So let's make sure we plug that stuff before we sign off. Corey, you go.
You can find me on the internet, Instagram, Twitter at the Hardwood Mag. You can find the YouTube channel that has all my scouting videos. Search in the Hardwood Herald. My podcast, the Draft Deck NBA Draft Podcast, it's available on all platforms. And issue 2 of the Hardwood Magazine is available comic book style. We got some really great interviews through the Wire podcast. We interviewed the first ever creative director in the NBA. He designed literally all of your favorite things, including the updated logo on Chris's hat right now. And we had a bunch of great writers, Jonathan Macri, Matt Brooks, Tyler Rucker, and a whole bunch of other people that would take forever to list. So you can find the link to that on my Twitter. Got a regular edition and a few variant covers left as well.
Yes, yeah. You do great stuff, Corey. So definitely check that out. Nima?
You guys can find me on Twitter at FindingNema23. You guys can find my podcast, Gen Z Rockets, as well. I like to, talk about the Rockets. Right now, it's a lot of draft stuff, but hopefully I get to get back into like the season and, talking about some of that stuff as Summer League comes around. But I write for Apollo Houston. Follow them at Apollo HOU. And you guys can, if you ever want to hear me talk basketball or talk basketball with me, you can find me normally on Spotify Green Room, normally on there a lot. There's a lot of good shows out there too, so be sure to check those out.
Yes. Noah?
You can find me on Twitter at Terranova Noah. I'll warn you, I'm not talking about basketball all the time. You can find me on YouTube. I have 2 channels. Noah Terranova, it's just my name. That's where I do all my draft stuff, a lot of NBA like new stuff, mock drafts, player profiles, things like that. I have a channel called Terranova Basketball Film Essays. I do more unique style videos over there, videos that probably take a bit more time to edit, but they try to combine elements from movies and apply this to basketball as well. So if you're into either of those things, you can go check out both of those.
Yeah, great stuff. Noah, you do. All right, Lee?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. This was an awesome group and a fun mock draft. I'm at Which Carolina on Twitter, and just search for the Which Carolina podcast literally anywhere you listen to your podcast, and give us a listen, a review, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks for having me, guys. It was really fun.
No doubt. Keandre?
Yeah, so you can find me on YouTube at Hoop Intellect. Still going strong with all the draft stuff, scouting reports, big boards, mock drafts. As we get closer to July 29th. And then you can follow me on Twitter at Hoop Intellect with 3 L's because, Somebody already had the 2 L's one.
You gotta negotiate, man. You gotta get that.
Hey man, that dude, he hasn't tweeted in like 2 years, and he's like, his whole profile is probably like I'm sure some people searched it up and like, is this him? But no, that's not me. 3 L's, and then on Instagram, Hoopin' Lex regular. And yeah, we got more draft stuff coming, more basketball stuff coming, right after the conclusion of the draft. So yeah, appreciate you having me on.
Yes, and appreciate, like you said, once again, appreciate everyone for joining me, on this mock draft 2.0, mock draft 3.0 next week. I'm getting closer to the draft. So like I said, gentlemen, I appreciate you all for joining me for this mock draft. I'm Chris LeBron. You can find me at Off the Ball Pod on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. You can go check out the network, Off the Ball Network, OTB_network on Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Check out all the great stuff at Off the Ball. Shout out to my bookie. Like you said, you make sure to use promo code Off the Ball. And on that note, guys, like I said, be well, be safe, take care. Like I said, thank again for joining me. Thanks for everyone for tuning in and listening. I appreciate all the comments and all that. And so on that note, be well, be safe, take care. Peace out, guys.